Testing, Java 2250, testing. Hello. Today we're starting with Chapter 4 in Java 2250. And I'm looking at the Chapter 4 lesson plan. I'd like you to make sure that you complete the companion website video notes as listed in your Chapter 4 lesson plan before you listen to this recorded audio. I'm going to be speaking on the shared sample code program. Kind of work through the code there, and that is available for you at your D2L site under your Chapter 4 module as a shared sales.java, and I think there's a sales.test for you as well to interact with. And again, you'll have your chapter exercises itemized at the end of the chapter to complete. So we're going to focus on the shared sample code today. Now, as you're working through Chapter 4, you'll find that these programs, and I'm just going to find a couple here. This is analysis.java, figure 4.12. And notice that analysis.java, you see the public static void main. So this is an application without a driver program, subsequent driver program. Unlike Chapter 3, we had a driver program, account.java, and account test.java. In Chapter 4, we're primarily addressing the code, looking at code samples and using code with different control structures. Our if then else, our while driver, and so on. So introducing some of the code logic, we're using an application analysis.java on figure 4.12. Increment.java, figure 4.15, and to the next page, we see the public static void main directly within the code of this program. There is no separate driver program. And the reason for that is that we're looking at implementing code, testing code. We're not, in these examples, instantiating a new object where each object needs to maintain separately its own instance variables and its own methods. So just try to kind of sort that out in your mind as we go ahead. All right, so exercise 4.19, sales.java. There is no sales test.java needed because the code of this program, the public class sales, has its own public static void main within. Now we're going to call on the scanner so we can gather and collect input via the keyboard. We're declaring double, our variable gross is initialized to 0.0 as a double. Total or earnings is declared as a double. We have an integer declared product, it's initialized to 0. And we have an integer declared number sold for the number sold of each given product. We're going to look at a while driver. And our while, remember with the while, we have an open and a close to end the while loop. And this loop will continue to execute while the condition of the while is true. So while true, we will continue to iterate the while loop. Now, some things that are important when you're using while strategy. We're testing product is less than 4 in the condition of the while. product, that variable must be pre-assigned prior to entering the while conditional test. And in fact, we did take care of that in our initialization statement. Product has been initialized to 0. So the condition of the while, your variable has to be pre-assigned, or we say primed. We have to make sure that we prime the condition of the while so that the variable or variables within the while condition have pre-existing values when we enter the while conditional test. So product is indeed less than 4. Product is actually equal to 0 at this point. So we're going to iterate through the while loop and do the assignments and logic within the while loop. And scanning ahead, we always want to make sure that the condition of the while variable is reassigned somewhere within the loop prior to exiting the end loop. And sure enough, we are reassigning product within the processing of the while loop within our if then else structure. So we want to always make sure we prime the condition of the while, make certain that the variable of the while condition has a assigned value prior to entering the while conditional test. And as we scan to the end of the while loop with bracing, that somewhere, usually just prior to the end of the while loop brace, we want to make sure that we have reassigned the condition variable of the while iteration. So product is 0. It is indeed less than 4. We're going to enter the while iteration, and product is increased with our increment variable to 1. We have a printed formatted output string, enter number sold of product number, and that's a £, so it'll be quoted on output. We're looking for an integer to be placed in our string and a colon with a trailing space. And the variable's current value of product, which is declared to be of type int, is 1. So we're going to see as output enter number sold of product number 1. And then number sold is assigned the next integer input by the keyboard. Now notice there's no air trapping there to make sure that the user does indeed type an integer, but again, we are the designers, programmers, and we're studying this code, so we're kind of avoiding some of the additional air trapping at this point, knowing that we are going to indeed type an integer. Well, now we want to determine the gross for each individual product and add it to our grand total. So for testing, we have these 4 different product types. And we're going to enter into an if, then, else if type of coding for our logic. If product is equal to 1, remember your equal sign is your equality test. This is our condition of the if statement. If product is indeed equal to 1, it is at this point. Our gross, which is our total gross earnings and initialized to 0.0, is going to be reassigned its current value plus number sold times $239.99. Since that is true, we will calculate, and gross will be assigned its current value of 0 plus the calculation amount, number sold times 239.99. And of course, we have executed the selection of the if, so we're going to go down to the end while product is 1. We're going to go up to the while and the condition 1 is less than 4. We're going to increment product to 2. We're going to prompt the user to input an integer for the number sold of this product 2. We're going to test and accumulate the product sold for this product. And we're going to test with our if, then, else if structure. If product is equal to 1, it is not. So we'll go to the else portion of the if, then, else and test. If product is equal to 1, remember your equal, you type the equal sign, no space in between, to indicate we're testing for a relational test of equality. If product is equal to 2, and indeed this time through the while iteration, product is equal to 2, so our gross is going to be incremented with its current value plus the number sold times the product price for product 2. We have found our selection true case in our if then else, so we'll exit the while, return to the top of the while. Product is 2, it is indeed less than 4. Product increments to 3. We prompt the user for product 3's number sold. The user inputs an integer indicating the quantity sold for number 3. We enter our if then else, and we're testing for if product is equal to 3. If product is equal to 1, it is not. Else if product is equal to 2, it is not. Else if product is equal to 3, that is true. So gross will be incremented its current value plus the number sold at its current price, 99.95. We continue to the top of the loop. Product is equal to 3, so we continue through the loop. Product is increased to 4. We prompt the user for the number sold for product 4. We input an integer indicating the number sold for product 4. Enter into our if then else testing. If product is equal to 1, it is not. Else if product is equal to 2, it is not. Else if product is equal to 3, it is not. Else if product is equal to 4. Yes, this iteration, product is equal to 4, so we will increment gross to its current value plus the number sold times 350.89. We're at the end of the loop. We go back to the top of the while and test. While product, which is now equal to 4, is less than 4, and 4 is not less than 4, so that's a false test. And we exit the while and continue with the next statement immediately following the end while loop iteration, which is earnings equals, now this is a calculation, and it's a calculation, that's why we did not need to initialize earnings to a beginning value. It is a calculated value. Earnings is equal to, and we were given our math model, 0.09, 9% times gross plus $200 to calculate the earnings. We have a system.out.print formatted with the printing of a string, earnings this week, colon, space, quote the $sign. The percent is looking to be a placeholder for a string, and sure enough we have a string, earnings this week. We're going to replace the placeholder with earnings formatted. There's a dot 2F indicating we're going to replace the position placeholder with earnings. Earnings formatted to 2 places following the decimal point, and issue a new line. So your total earnings calculated as a double will be well formatted to a typical dollars and cents 2 places following the decimal point. So now we're looking at NetBeans, and my project is example 4.19 with sales.java as my source file, and I've entered that into the working area as a saved file of the project, and it's named sales.java. So just kind of looking again after we've studied the code, we have our sales class with its own main. So this program will start and execute on its own. It does not need a driver program. We're going to be getting input from the keyboard. We've declared our starting variables to their initialized declared data types. And we're using a while iteration loop. While the condition is true, we will continue to process, making sure that the while condition has been properly primed, that all the variables within the condition have a previously assigned value. When we test, so prior to the while, we need to make sure that product has a beginning value, and sure enough we did assign product is equal to 0. And testing your while logic, we also have to make sure that somewhere within the body of the while, the variable or variables of the condition of the while must be reassigned some value, or we'd be in an infinite loop. And sure enough, we are going to make some reassignment to product within the body of the loop. So we iterate, we test the amount of numbers sold for this product, getting input from the getting integer input from the keyboard, and then we process if it is product 1, if it's product 2, if it's product 3, or if it's product 4. We are able to accumulate gross's value, and when product is no longer less than 4, we exit the while loop. We're now able to do some calculations. Earnings is assigned 0.09 times gross plus 200, which is the salesperson's earnings. According to your directions, the salesperson will receive $200 per week as a flat fee, plus 9% of their gross sales for that week. So this salesperson's earnings will be 9% of the gross for the week, which we established through our while driver and its iteration, plus your flat fee of $200. With earnings calculated, we're going to output a formatted string, earnings this week, colon, space, $. We're going to fit earnings into a 2 places following the decimal point precision and a new line. So let's see what happens when we run. Enter numbers sold of product 1. So it's looking for input from the keyboard, and I'm going to type in my test, I'm going to type 1 item was sold of product 1. Enter number sold of product 2. It's going to go with 2 as a number sold for product 2. I'm going to enter 3 as a number sold for product 3, and I'll enter 4 as a quantity sold for item 4. The total earnings for this week is $398.26. That is the earnings calculation. $200 plus 9% of our gross will be the earnings for this salesperson. So as you look ahead to lesson 4, There is an online discussion forum again, so be sure to contribute to that. I will be opening that up soon. And your program project is assigned as Program 4, page 147, example 4.20. Use the file name of wages.java and use the following given data that's in your lesson plan, chapter 4. So I will continue with a second chapter 4 unit lesson plan part 2 recorded lecture, where I will begin to lay out some of the UML logic and develop the design for your 4.20 program 4 assignment. Thank you very much, and we'll be chatting soon.